Hey everyone, Teacher Christy here, and welcome to part 2 of my Gogokid Interview series. In this section, we're going to talk about some tips and strategies for acing your demo lesson. If you haven't watched part 1, make sure you go back and watch that as well, where we discuss tips for the interview portion. So for your demo, the first thing you want to make sure that you are doing is having a great attitude. You want to smile. You want to be encouraging. You want to make sure that you are always being positive and rooting that student on, encouraging them to do the very best you can. Number 2 is your greeting. You want to make sure that you are first greeting your student. You can start out by saying, "Hi, my name is Teacher Christy. What is your name?" And then wait and listen for them to respond. The way that they respond to this first initial question gives you a great indication of what their English level is. And knowing this is really important as you go through the lesson so you know how to respond to the student. If it's obvious that they have a very low level of English ability, then you want to make sure your follow-up question is something very simple. Something like, "How are you today?" And then wait to see what they say. If they just kind of look at you and they don't quite respond, you could do something like, "I am happy to see you." And then you can go on with your lesson. You could also ask a question like, "How old are you?" Or, "How was your day?" depending on the impression you get about their English level. Tip number 3 has to do with your speech. You want to make sure that you are speaking slowly and clearly. You also want to make sure that you are reducing your teacher talk time as much as possible. You want to use very short, simple sentences to convey your meaning with as little words as possible. For example, you don't want to say something like, "Amy, do you know what kind of animal this is?" Instead, it would be a good idea to say something like, "Amy, what do you see?" Or you can add in another prop. "What do you see?" And convey what you're trying to get across with your body language or your TPR rather than too many words. Keep in mind that your interviewer is going to be acting as though they are a young student with very limited English, so you want to keep your speech as low as possible. The Gogokid goal for talk time in class is a 40-60 ratio. And that means that they want the teacher to only be talking 40% of the time while the student is speaking 60% of the time. This can't be done if you are using lots of extra and unnecessary language. Tip number 4, which we just kind of talked about, is your TPR. TPR is your total physical response and involves the body language that you are using to convey what you are trying to say. Some TPR can be instructional, where you are giving them instructions to do something. Some TPR can be educational, where you are trying to convey your meaning. But you definitely want to make sure that you are using lots of TPR throughout your lesson. Some of my most used forms of TPR are pointing to my mouth and leaning in when I am trying to correct a pronunciation or teach a new word. If you want the student to respond, you can cup your ear and maybe make a gesture towards them to indicate that it's their turn to talk. If you want to know what they see, you can do the "What do you see?" or "What do you see?" Most of the time, if I ask a question, I always use the gesture, to get across that I'm wondering and I'm wanting them to answer. So make sure that your lesson is full of TPR. You also want to make sure that you are using lots of props. Probably want to have at least 2 to 3 different types of props through your lesson. Props not only help aid the teaching and learning process, but it also keeps the lesson fun and interesting for the student. So some of the props you might want to use are some stuffed animals, if you have them, play fruit. You can also use, printed out pictures. So you've got this for games, friends. You can use flashcards for numbers. You can use a whiteboard and a marker. You can use any prop you can think of that relates to the lesson. Make sure you're also not just flashing the prop up on the screen, but you're also, engaging it and making it fun. So if you're talking about a cat, why not stick your cat up to the camera and have the cat meow, meow, meow. That's always fun for the student. Also, puppets can be a great thing to use in your lesson to engage and get the student's attention. So if you're using a puppet, you can model conversation with the puppet. Hi, Pinky. How are you? Hi, teacher. I'm happy. You can also have the puppet talk to the student. Hi, Amy. How are you? To keep the student's attention and to keep the lesson fun and interesting. Tip number 6 is your teaching style. If you're teaching new words, you want to make sure that you are repeating that new word at least 3 times. You can also make this fun and interesting and not just saying the same word over and over again. So if I were to teach the student the word cat, I would say, cat, 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 cat. You can do, cat, cat. Change your tone, change your volume, keep it fun and engaging. Don't just the same old thing over and over again. Also make sure that you are adjusting to the level of your student. So if you are noticing that your student is a lower level, then you want to take things a little more slowly, you want to break them down, and you really want to focus on that repetition and very, very simple, concise language. If you notice that your student is advanced, then you want to expand on your lesson and add things to it to increase their learning and keep them engaged and interesting. You also want to make sure that you are listening out for corrections. Remember, your interviewer is pretending to be a young child with basic English, and in a real classroom setting, this child will make errors. Your interviewer may just make some errors as well. So make sure that you are listening out for these errors and that you correct them in a timely and positive manner. If they are speaking in a sentence, I recommend not interrupting them, waiting until they're finished to make that correction. So for example, if you wanted your student to say, I see a cat, and your student responds, I see cat, wait until they finish the sentence and then say, oh, that was a good job. I see a cat. And stress that correction. So you want to give them praise and positive reinforcement, but you also want to stress that correction and make sure that everything they say is grammatically correct. Along those same lines, you also want to encourage your students to speak in complete sentences as often as they are able. So if your student just says cat, encourage them to say, I see a cat. You may have to go over the sentence a couple of times, but most of the time they will be able to catch on and repeat that sentence back to you. You also want to make sure that you have some sort of attention grabber. Young children are often distracted. They are in their own homes. They are taking these lessons where there is lots of other, maybe more interesting things going on around them than you. Your interviewer may just model this behavior for you. So you want to make sure that you have something fun that's going to grab their attention and bring their focus back to you. So some sort of noise maker or a fun prop or two, something that might make them laugh, anything to bring their focus back to you in a positive way. Tip number 7, don't forget your reward system. Gogokid uses 2 reward systems. In platform, they have a reward system of stars. So it would show your research and your knowledge of the company if you pretended to reward them with stars doing your demo. I have a little star wand that I like to use when I reward with stars, kind of like a magical fairy. You could also just use a picture of a star. Good job, Amy. You get a star. Something fun and exciting. You also need to have a secondary reward system. In the materials that Gogokid sends you, they do provide a monkey and a banana reward system. If you'd like, you could print that out and use that during your demo. If you have your own secondary reward systems, you are also welcome to use those as well. For my demo, I used my little monkey guy that sits back here, and I rewarded him with bananas. Monkey gets a banana. Good job. And Monkey got bananas. It's also really fun for the students if you also, maybe had a puppet. My students think it's hilarious when Monkey gets a banana and then he just gobbles it up. That also keeps it fun and interesting for the kids. And my final tip, tip number 8, may just be the very most important one. Make sure you relax. Take a deep breath, exhale those nerves, relax, and have fun. They can tell if you enjoy what you're doing or not. They want teachers that are fun and enjoyable to interact with. And this really comes across on the camera based on your attitude. So make sure that you just take a deep breath. I know that you're probably feeling a little nervous, but relax, take a deep breath, and just have a lot of fun during the demo. And you will do an excellent job. If you have any questions, be sure to comment below and I will be sure to answer them. And that's all for me today. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.